Good evening, everyone. Once again, we'll wait just a few moments to allow more people to drop in, and we'll have an official hello, good evening, all of that. Mary, thank you for co-hosting. It looks like you're on tonight. Twenty seconds more. Okay, we're almost at the 30 mark. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, they will miss the secret teachings. Anyway, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Mission Dharma. Happy to see as many faces who are willing to show yourself, be seen, allow yourself to be a reminder of our shared humanity. That will be part of the theme tonight, our shared humanity. And invite you also to unmute when you feel open to it, to say hello, say where you're calling in from, so we can hear each other's voices and at least simulate elements of what it's like when we're in person, so that it's not just a dead space. So, I'm in Tucson, Arizona right now.
Ah,
Oh,
hi, Howie. I'm from Tucson, Arizona,
Nancy, wonderful.
but I live in Petaluma now.
Yeah.
oh. I'm Katie from San Francisco.
Hi, Katie. Always great
Hi.
to see you.
Frank and Rhonda, San Francisco.
Hey, Frank and Rhonda. Glad you're here.
Linda in San Francisco.
Hello, Linda. Glad you're with us.
Margot from
Karen.
Berkeley.
Hey, Margot.
Cecilia in Scottsdale.
Hi, Cecilia. Glad you're here.
Karen from Richmond, California.
Hi, Karen. Welcome.
Howard in British Columbia.
Hello, Howard.
Mary in Richmond, California.
Great.
And Keith in Berkeley.
Hey, Keith.
There you go.
Welcome.
Laura in Maryland.
Hi, Laura. Welcome late in the evening in Baltimore area, I guess. Anyone else?
Meryl from San Francisco.
Hi, Meryl. Welcome. Glad you're here.
Ruben from Seattle.
San Francisco.
Hi, Amy. Welcome. And somebody was from Seattle, I heard.
Ruben.
Hi, Ruben. Welcome.
Hi.
Miriam in Vancouver. Hi.
Hi, Miriam. Always a pleasure.
Michael from New York City.
Hi, Michael. Welcome. Got the night owls with us. Okay.
And Jeff from Phoenix. Hi.
Hi, Jeff. Welcome. Okay. Thank you for your voices, your presence, and your interest in your care about remaining sane. It's not so easy right now. So let's do our part. This is a form of social action to stop the internal war, stop the external war, and be an example and experience the possibility of peace, even in the midst of war. And a reminder that peace is only a split second, a half breath away. Not something we have to become peaceful. It's what the very natural state of our own hearts and minds. When we just stay here long enough, we recognize it. And the way we connect with this living present as we let our eyes close softly and feel the seclusion of just feeling our sitting bodies sitting. And feeling it so intimately that the idea of our body gives way to the field of sensations, vibrations, just the feeling of aliveness, getting back to nature, the elements. Nature is not an idea, it's an immediate and direct experience. So once we've felt this experience of nature with full awareness, we may notice that there's something about this coming together of attention and nature of our bodies where calm begins to settle in, stillness, without trying to be calm or trying to be still. Things quiet down. Our mind empties of its usual obsessions and gets filled with a simple sense experience here and now. Maybe inner sight, it may be sounds, maybe sensations. And for most of us, the predominance will be the sensations of sitting. And then quite naturally, we'll feel the more subtle sensations of our body breathing. And we just anchor our attention in the body's experience of its own breath. Just the touch sensations of breathing, wherever they're most clear. Letting go of all strain or tension to notice, just receiving the body's breath and maybe even enjoying this direct experience of nature. And sustaining this connection with the body's experience of breathing as long as it lasts, feeling intimately the duration of the in-breath, the out-breath, resting in that space between the breaths if there is one. Just not letting our attention leave our experience of nature, the nature of the body. Staying connected as long as it lasts. Knowing that sometimes there are gaps in our continuity of mindful attention, and in those gaps we often space out and we wake up again. And And when mindfulness comes back online, appreciate that return to awareness. And in support of remaining aware, anchored to reality, the living present, we find our body again and our breath. And we make that reconnection with our body just like we would put a puppy back on paper when we're trying to train it, very gently, lovingly, without any judgment for having jumped off the paper. Just this moment, just this breath. If you are here long enough, you will also notice that many sense experiences arise, come to visit, light up in our mind. If sounds come, we simply acknowledge that hearing is occurring. Just noting it as hearing. The whole range of sensations come, we just notice the quality of sensations. Aching, burning, stabbing, itching, tingling. We also notice its valence. Notice when they're pleasant. Notice when they're unpleasant. Notice when they're neither pleasant or unpleasant. Just acknowledging, not doing anything about them, not undoing them. Just noticing the presently arising experience. This is both the function and in a way, the goal of mindful attention is to see, to know what is presently arising. Not to solve any problems, not to figure anything out, not to work through anything, simply to notice with a kind and interested and relaxed attention. And to realize the Dharma, that everything is changing. Just this moment, just what's arising, just this breath. Notice if you are trying to make something happen. This is greed in the mind, and it simply needs to be included in your mindful attention. Notice if there's any resistance to what's going on. This is aversion in the mind. This must be also included in our mindful attention. It's just another object. Everything is included and welcomed. Just this moment, just this breath, or whatever's predominant, or whatever attitude is present. Just noticing, without judgment or interference. Resting in that state of being lucidly aware, supported by the body and breath. Since being aware is our destination, you've already arrived. Every moment then is a new beginning. Just settling back into the moment, receiving body, breath, sounds, thoughts when they present themselves, moods, anything that can be known here, now. No matter how many times you realize you've been daydreaming, each one of those moments is a moment of mindful attention, re-arising. So rather than judge the wandering mind, appreciate all those moments of mindful attention. And in support of remaining continuous as possible, anchored to the living present, we just reconnect with our body, which is always present. Make nothing more of the fact that we're now awake and in touch with reality. Just this moment. Just this body, just being aware. Really a pleasure to sit with you. Thank you for your practice. I felt so grateful tonight to, how can I say this, to come back home. And I was thinking of the poem, which I'll probably mess up a little bit, but the poem from Derek Walcott called Love After Love, where he said, "The time will come when with elation you will greet yourself at your own door in your own mirror and say, 'Sit here, eat.' You will love again the stranger who was yourself. Give wine, give bread. Give back your heart to itself, to the stranger who has loved you all your life, whom you've ignored for another who knows you by heart." He says, take the love letters from the bookshelves, the photographs, the angry notes or empty notes or something like that. Sit, feast on your life. So I felt very grateful to be able to feast on my life, and knowing that a little bit more settled, my mind a little bit more settled in my body, much more in touch with the simple reality of the present moment and the capacity to feel peace in the middle of it all. Is exactly the medicine that I needed today. And I think it's especially essential in this atmosphere that I think many of us, I hate to generalize too much, but I think it's crazy tunes time. There's so much madness. We're led by a madman. Sorry to say, and this is not meant to be political, it's meant to be social. I mean, it's not a kind of a sociopath. It doesn't have a heart. At least it doesn't appear to. And is the most powerful, or has the most influence of any person in the world. And that much influence left in the hands of a crazy man has to leave. If you're human, you have to feel somewhat jangled and uncertain and filled with all kinds of different reactivity. And if you're a caring person, you're going to want to, find some relief. And unfortunately, the relief that's mostly presented is the echo chambers of views and I, you could accuse me of sharing a view right now, but what I'm trying to pay attention to by coming back to myself is stepping out of that us and them and that drum beat that is, at least in our, as much as I love being well informed, if I stay with any kind of media source, I'm amped up afterwards, and I've made a case for the prosecution and I'm right and they're bad. and it just goes on and on and on. And so in order to find some sanity, we have to step out of that stream of distress. And because it's easy to self-abandon, and ostensibly out of care for the world. We want to be well informed, but it's really easy to get into us and them, us and them, us and them. And lose that antidote that grows so organically when we stop, that feeling of an experience of non-reactivity, of equanimity. To that stranger in us who's loved us all our life, whom we've ignored for another who knows us by heart. That's that quality of aware presence that has by its nature balance, non-contentiousness. openness. And at least for a few moments, I'm not making a case for the prosecution. So I'm very grateful for that tonight. How about you? There's more to be said about that. But I am interested in any questions that you have about your practice, any comments, how what showed up in your practice tonight, and any way that we can bring it into the light of the Dharma. Because that's the key, is we need to lighten up. We need to be able to stay light in what some would call dark times. Even though that's not new, that one needs to remain light, find some light in dark times, because human beings tend to make a lot of darkness. So anyway, curious about you and your questions, comments, descriptions, raised hand function, or just raise your hands and I'll call on you. And Mary will help me, hopefully. Thank you, Mary. Please, Karen.
Can you hear me?
Now I can.
Okay. I guess this is a practical question, but it's a little bit warm here and I normally don't have windows open so wide. And my upstairs neighbor has had a very long and loud conversation while we were meditating. And so my initial reaction is, oh, that's so irritating. I should just move to another room and get away from his voice. But then I decided maybe that wasn't the best idea, because I usually try to be quiet when I'm meditating and not move around so much. So what would your suggestion be? Try to ignore it or just go to a quieter place? Do you?
Yeah, both of those are not the main event. Is to notice that first of all, that you're hearing, and notice that the sounds are unpleasant. They have an
Yes.
unpleasant association. And if you're able to simply recognize it as hearing and feel the unpleasantness of it, then it's less likely to get into a whole reaction that you need to do something about. So it's hearing, and so you just treat it as sound and hearing. And notice it definitely has an unpleasant association for you. But there's a difference between unpleasant and I don't like this. So if it's landed in the I don't like this, or I want it to be different, you want to notice that too. So there's actually many things happening, not just the noisy neighbor. And so part of our practice is to be able to work with our reactions, just like we work with our coming back to myself, as I talked about tonight. I'm able to work with my reactions and the residue of all those things that have occurred in my reactions to the world right now. It's the same with the noisy neighbor. It's never really the noisy neighbor. It's our reactivity that creates our stress. And so we want to work with that first. And if we're not able to work with our reactivity, are you with me? Can you still hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear you.
If we're not able to work with our reactivity, it's not a failure. It's then that we either put in earplugs, move to another room, or do something. So we don't turn it into a torture test, but we try to work with it as just hearing and work with our reaction. And how do you work with the reaction? How do you work with the reaction of aversion or I don't like it? Is you feel that. And so you anchor your attention in your body's experience of ill will, of aversion, dislike. And before you know it, that feeling may come and go, and then the sound will just be the sound again. So the middle place is to work with our reaction.
So almost in a way, not try to focus so much on, I could hear every word of his conversation.
Yeah, the content. Yeah, ideally you don't want to get involved in the content. It's really hard not to pick up on it, but
loud.
you want to aim more toward just the fact that you want to aim at one of the sense experiences. Okay, there's eyes. Are you seeing something? No, I'm hearing. There's hearing. So it's just the experience of hearing. So it's like a just simple sense experience in terms of the meditation practice.
Hmm. All right. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, good luck. I feel sympathy for the challenge of dealing with that. Anyway, let's see if I think I messed up something. There we go. Anyone else? Mary, please feel free.
Hi. Well, number one, I want to say thank you so much, you know, and the group and, you know, the Sangha in general, that I think it's such a difficult time. It's really important to me, and I guess to most of us, you know, to have that and to have wise teachers too that are also experiencing that. You know what I mean? They're not like in some, you know, fairyland kind of thing, you know, above it all. It's a very challenging time. And and I think a lot of us are just exhausted from it at this point because it's been nonstop for like a year or more. But I do want to mention I happened to catch on YouTube an interview with Jack Cornfield about this very subject by Dan Harris. It was on YouTube, and did you see it? It was very good. Where he, you know, Dan was actually really struggling with these times and really was asking from his heart, you know, do you have any good advice to share? So, you know, many people I think are going through this. So I also want to apologize for being late. It is 96 degrees here today. I don't know what's going
Santa
on.
Barbara at 96 in March. That's extraordinary.
Unbelievable. Never seen anything like it. So I decided to go down to the beach, and I was going to try to do this from the beach, but didn't kind of work out as I had planned. So,
Anyway,
but
glad you made it, and
I'll catch the beginning on your, you know, redo.
okay, stay cool. At least we can cool our minds, if not our
Yes.
bodies.
Nice to see you,
Thank you.
and everybody.
Cheryl, please feel free.
No one here yesterday in Canada. It is up here sad too, but what I'm finding is that I'm of no use if I'm sad all the time. So
Well said.
I feel in terms that I'm alive and I'm human and it's springtime.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that gives it to me.
Terrific. Yes. That's your version of Derek Walcott's poem. Beautiful. Thank you. Anyone else before we shift gears? Please feel free. Jeffrey, please.
Hi. I had a couple of neat experiences. One was I had a moment where it zipped through where I know this sounds far out. I was in my infant self. I was like under a year old or birth, just in a space that felt like that, and I noticed it, and then it zipped out again. But that was really striking to me, you know.
It happened during the sitting tonight. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It came in, and I let it. I'm learning from you. I let it be there, and that went out. You know, but I was in such a quiet moment of relief that I felt like I was looking out of my infant eyes.
Gorgeous, gorgeous.
Weird. Yeah.
Yeah, that's in a way the practice of mindfulness is kind of a return to innocence. It's seeing without without, you know how we know a lot about ourselves historically, but we don't know ourselves directly. And little beings, they know things directly. They're just open. And so that's beautiful. Happy
Thanks.
for you.
And then the other thing was really neat at the end of our meditation when that paper shuffling came
Oh
on.
yeah, sorry about that. I had to hook up my
Okay.
my good microphone. But go ahead.
It made a really neat experience. It's just discombobulated me. And it was startling, but then I thought, it was like excitement, you know?
Right?
Out
I'm
of
sure,
the
I'm sure there was a range of reactions.
yeah, which was good to experience, you know? Yeah, for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Thanks.
we welcome it all.
Yeah.
We don't make our well-being dependent on it being just pristinely quiet or our minds being pristinely still and quiet. We, as Mary was saying, as others have saying, we have many we're human. We have many strong reactions and emotions, and our practice isn't about bypassing any of that. It's about welcoming it all.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Jeffrey.
Thanks.
Glad you're with us. Meryl, last but not least.
On the subject of all the difficult things, and how to sort of wrangle with that or how to, help ourselves. I was listening to a Tara Brach talk, and, she mentioned that, the science on our minds just remember if there's one negative thing.
Yeah, negative bias. Yeah.
Yeah, the negative bias. And one of the things, I don't know if it was a study, but that was recommended was when you see something that is really either you feel gratitude or joy or awe, to stop and to focus on it and to just feel that if you can for, I think it was like 30 seconds or so. And just, quick practice that I know I've been doing more and more to see if
Great.
it helps. So just wanted to throw that out
Great.
there.
Thank you. I'm sure everyone can benefit from that. Thank you, Meryl. Mary, did you have something you wanted to say to
I just wanted to share one of the quotes from that talk that I really loved a lot. It was by Pablo Neruda, and I I thought it was very hopeful. It says, "You can pick all the flowers, but you can't stop the spring." Thought that was really sweet. So
gorgeous,
hopeful.
gorgeous. Thank you. Okay. So I read something very interesting. At least it was interesting to me. Oh, let me back up a little bit. It wasn't until the 19th century, really, that the teachings of the Buddha were described as Buddhism. That's a more Western colonial designation, and it became part of the world religions. So before that, it was just the Dharma of the Buddha, the teachings of the Buddha, the teachings of liberation, of putting down the causes of suffering and awakening the causes of well-being and happiness. And it was not a system of beliefs, it was a technology of living, and hopefully living wisely enough and congruently enough that one, through their thoughts, words, and actions, inclined toward this kind of freedom, could become liberated, could experience the cessation of the deepest source of suffering, which is this craving for pleasure, craving to get rid of things, craving for existence, craving for becoming, and that one in this very life can experience the cessation. So it was just the teachings of the Buddha, and there were clearly many, many millions of people over many, many generations followed those teachings, and eventually they did start to fall into the similar, more tribal, more communal sense of a religion where there's prayer and there's devotion and there's all kinds of things. But the Buddha wasn't a Buddhist. The Buddha was just awake. The Buddha means awake, and shared for 45 years of his life after his awakening, how he came to understand what he did. But eventually, Buddhism became one of the great world religions, considered one of the great world religions. And there are lots and lots of, millions and millions of people who follow the Buddha, usually more ritualistically. It's only actually a small percentage who actually practice meditation, who actually train their minds and their hearts to incline in a very systematic way toward liberation. But as a religion, it still has many elements that are useful. The philosophy, understanding of the naturalness of the humanness of stress. That if you're born, you're going to get things that are stressful. So not pretending this doesn't happen, not bypassing, but what exaggerates, what magnifies, what amplifies the stress is this chronic habit of wanting it to be otherwise. And the people live by the understanding is that, yes, you can live well and you can actually experience less stress. And you can, if you follow the path and you live a life of harmlessness and ethics and morality, you can live a very happy life. And if you practice generosity, so all the kind of basic how to live a good life is part of what's become the larger Buddhism. But the uprooting of the causes of suffering through insight knowledge, that's very few people into that. But nevertheless, there are millions of Buddhists. But of all the so-called world religions, the only one, interestingly enough, that is decreasing in numbers, the only one that's decreasing is Buddhism. It's kind of shocking, isn't it? But yet, on the other hand, it's not shocking, because in a way, Buddhism asks us to open to reality. It asks us not to adopt magical beliefs in some promised land. One is invited to find the promised land right in the middle of the aches in our heart, right in the middle, turning instead of turning toward other, we turn toward ourselves. We take responsibility for our experience. And many people might interpret why this is happening, why Buddhism is decreasing. I think that people are more distracted. It's a harder path. We are addicted to our devices, our technology, addicted to our echo chambers, addicted to our views and opinions. And consequently, it's a little bit more challenging. It takes a little bit more care to actually stay with the path. And I have noticed, I've said this before on Tuesday nights, that over the years, at least Mission Dharma in person used to have an enormous number of people who would come every Tuesday. And the moment of the election of the name I won't give right this moment, the numbers dropped. People became so you couldn't turn away from the challenge of dealing with this change in our conditions, and the numbers literally dropped in half, almost to the day. I could see a before and an after, and I would attribute some of that to the onslaught of the of technology, as well as our political and social milieu, the polarization and the amount of disparity in our incomes and our conditions. It's just so, it's hard to bear. And it's the road less traveled to just feel our pain and to sit in the middle of it. And so we always have to, the Dharma always starts with not bypassing the pain of the world, but opening to it, opening to how we feel. And and of course we want to, part of why we practice is to balance the tendencies of mind that are so conditioned by our life. I've often talked about the movies as you could give the same name to all films, and you could call them greed, hatred, and delusion. And you would have an accurate description of what movies playing in the theater or on your streaming device. They all fall into that category. But now you see that that's just an expression or a mirror image of the whole world is basically driven by greed and aversion and delusion. The greed creating these conditions where there's such a disparity in wealth and so much wealth in the hands of so few. I remember, I don't talk about this much, but I happen to know the family of one of the wealthiest people in the United States. One of the children of one of the wealthiest people in the United States has been my friend through my whole life, and her father is the person who said it's absolutely unconscionable that this man was speaking for himself, that I should be paying less taxes than the person who is my office assistant, and created this whole view that everybody should pay their fair share. And so we can get into all kinds of politics about that, but there is such a world expression of greed. And fortunately, if we are a practitioner of the Dharma, we open to that and the pain of that, but we also find and remember the antidote to that is that sense of generosity, of sharing, of not going into our sense of fear and greed and isolation and lack, and going against the stream of what basically the world does by practicing generosity wherever we can, with our time, with our resources, with our attention. It's giving attention to, I always think of I love the description in the teachings on metta of the so-called neutral person. You usually, as you develop the heart of metta, of loving kindness, you start with somebody you easily feel loving kindness toward, a benefactor, somebody that you respect or who's helped you in your life. And then you move on to other beloved friends and people you care about. And then you move on to the so-called neutral person, or sometimes they're called the invisible people, the people who you would just pass by and not even pay attention to. And you give attention to people who you usually pass by. This kind of generosity of spirit. This is in a way, each of us can practice the antidote to the greed and the hate, the greed in the mind, and the sense of me and mine and just mine. So then we see so much, at least I was thinking about it today, so much, and I mentioned it when we first ended the sitting, just this so much us and them, the us and them, and I was describing how much I feel stirred up by aversion toward the other. And I realized that every single time that I get worked up, even though I want to honor my human tendency to be reactive, to have my own turbulence and open to it, I don't want to stay there. I want to be an example in this world. I want to make use of this life and not be conditioning my mind to incline toward ill will, toward othering. So it's essential that I put that, I like to use this expression, put it to good use. I can use that turbulence and put it to good use to remind me of my love of stopping and melting away the sense of separate individuality, separate self, is what I experience, what we can experience when we stop creating moment by moment this idea of self and other, this idea of us and them, the whole experience of duality, of separateness, comes in our thinking. It's the way that we incline our mind. And the heart of the Buddha's teaching, one of the most pith instructions, the Buddha said, whatever you think about and ponder and dwell upon becomes the inclination of your mind. So do you want your mind to be creating moment to moment a sense of separation and isolation and othering, which just furthers the sense of hatred and furthers the sense of self-abandoning? Because as soon as you incarnate in the I'm right and they're bad and they're wrong, you've actually self-abandoned. That's why that's stopping. We say why Derek Walcott says a time will come when with elation you will see yourself arriving at your own door in your own mirror and say, sit here, feast on your life. And you'll rediscover the stranger who was yourself. That's why I felt so grateful tonight to be out of that stream of distress and back into a non-separate relationship, an opportunity then to feel the deep sense of interconnection, even with the people who I disagree with. I was reading earlier from the Reverend Martin Luther King, who said, and this is a tall task right now, there's another reason why we should love our enemies. And that's because hate distorts the personality of the hater. We usually think that what hate does for the individual what hate does for the individual hated, or the individuals hated, or the groups hated. But it's even more tragic, it is even more ruinous and injurious to the individual who hates. And you can substitute who's in a state of aversion, any kind of ill will. You just begin hating somebody and you will begin to do irrational things. You can't see straight when you hate. You can't walk straight when you hate. You can't stand upright. Your vision is distorted. There's nothing more tragic than to see an individual whose heart is filled with hate. They come to a point where they become a pathological case. For the person who hates, you can stand up and see a person, and that person can be beautiful. That person can be beautiful, and you will call them ugly. For the person who hates, the beautiful becomes ugly, the ugly becomes beautiful. For the person who hates, the good becomes bad, and the bad becomes good. For the person who hates, the true becomes false, the false becomes true. That's what hate does. You can't see right. The symbol of objectivity is lost. Hate destroys the very structure of the personality of the hater. And from Prajnaparamita, I always like to read this not to scare anybody, but to realize that what we do with our minds moment to moment, day to day, it has a huge impact. This is from Prajnaparamita. It says, so sensitive is the ecology of interdependence, of interbeing, of non-separateness. So sensitive is the ecology of interdependence of all that the slightest attention or assistance to others creates moral elevation for ourselves and humanity, while the slightest indifference or neglect toward others creates moral harm for ourselves and our civilization. The faintest spark of ill will toward other beings can burst forth into a terrible forest fire, consuming vast expanses of sympathetic joy. Even the faintest negative reaction or malicious wish opens wide channels throughout our entire being for life-destroying poisons of negation and life-obscuring shadows of self-cherishing. So, of course, the antidote for the ill will is come back to ourselves, to reconnect with that non-separateness. But it's also to incline our mind toward thoughts of goodwill, of kindness. Because as the poet Hafez says, you carry all the ingredients to turn your existence into a nightmare. Don't mix them. It says you carry all the ingredients to turn your existence into joy. Mix them, mix them. So it's just so easy to hop on the train of us and them, and anger and frustration and helplessness and hopelessness, and so easy to justify it. And it's natural, it's human nature to feel those things, but we don't want to stay there. Do we want to be right, or do we want to be free? Do we want to prove the point that someone else is wrong and we're right? Do we want to devote our life to that? Or do we want to be an example of someone who sits in the middle of it all, who uses as the antidote that quality of equanimity, of non-contentiousness, of non-reactivity? Again, we talk about that. It needs to be cultivated because our human nature, our human conditioning, because we're all conditioned by each other, is to get pissed off. And unfortunately, to stay there. But that's why we practice, to stop, to feel what it's like to be, the teachings. I think last week I talked about the coloring of our consciousness when the hindrance is there. But the expression often used with anger is that turbulent water, burning with anger, boiling. Yeah. And then we get, as Mary or someone said, they just feel exhausted. We don't have to. And every moment is an open field. It's empty. This moment right now, it has no inherent value, meaning, and it's completely, in that way, it's open and creative. It's a field of creative possibility. So right now, in any moment that I wake up to where I am, I can plant the seed of stillness. I can plant the seed of love. Or I can just keep feeding the reactive patterns, feeding the story of self and others, us and them. And it's really, especially in those moments that we are awake, we also have that feeling, that experience of I can choose. As Merrill, I think it was Merrill who says, You know, when you experience some joy, to actually hover, to experience that. I forgot what she used as an example, but this is straight from the Buddha, who said when you experience joy, it will enhance the experience of it. When you experience generosity and you feel that feeling of generosity, it will enhance your experience. It will help condition your heart to incline more toward generosity. And it will condition your heart to incline toward more joy if you really take in the beauty, take in, as Cheryl did, take in the garden, the springtime. Enjoy life. So each of us has within us the capacity to swim against the stream of the movie of our day, which is always the same movie, greed, hatred, and delusion, where it's the delusion of me. And I think so much of the way that the sense of me gets organized is around my views and opinions. It's called Ditthi papancha, the proliferation, the complication, the creation of myself around views of what I believe and being right or wrong and having the superior view. And that's just identity. That's just delusion. An idea of yourself, whether it's a great idea, and whatever your idea is, it's just not yourself. It's an idea. So the greed and hatred, let's see, I'm thinking of these out loud. Greed, hatred, and delusion. How else do we cut through delusion? Well, I think that cut through the delusion, I go right back to the teachings, the Buddha's teaching on wise understanding. Wise understanding, there's the ultimate wise understanding is, like I talked about before, the Four Noble Truths, the truth, there's stress. There's a cause, there's an end, there's a path, and to know that, that's the ultimate. And then the more, what's called mundane wise understanding, the antidote for delusion, is understanding karma, that your actions have consequences. And the motivation for your actions determine the fruit of what you do. And so the teachings ask us to incline toward, to have our motivation to have a mind or heart that is not filled with greed and hatred and delusion, but with non-greed, which is generosity, non-hatred, which is love, non-delusion, which is a deep sense of interbeing, and a heart that inclines toward also toward non-greed, which means a mind that practices day after day some measure of simplicity, of renunciation, of the habit of getting caught in the mind that continually wants, and consequently can never be satisfied. So may we all be free moment by moment. And it'd be wonderful if we could all be ultimately free of greed, hatred, and delusion, but at least moment to moment, by inclining toward non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion, we can be an example of sanity and well-being in this, and light in this very challenged world. So thanks for listening, and Mary is going to give you a download. Please don't go yet. We have a special announcement.
So thanks, Howie. So this Saturday, you have an opportunity to practice non-greed, non-delusion, non-aversion. So we're the half day online retreat. Everyone is welcome from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific time. And we haven't done one of these for a while. So for those of you who've been kind of hankering, here's your opportunity. And then, so I hope to see you there. All the information, the link is in the chat. And then, of course, just a reminder of Donna and yeah, just that opportunity to practice generosity, that opportunity to practice interconnection, opportunity to practice loving kindness. There's so much in there. So all the information on how to give Donna is in there, and we are very, very grateful for anything you offer. So thank you.
Thank you, Mary. I want to say a little bit more about the half-day retreat. It's entitled Spring Cleaning. You can read the blurb and all of that. But it will be alternating periods of sitting and walking, just like you would do in an in-person retreat. And it really is an opportunity to create a little temple in your home where you have a little practice period. It'll help you gain a lot of confidence in your practice and bring it alive in the middle of your daily life. And we'll sit together. It won't be just 4 hours straight of sitting. We'll be sitting. We'll have walking periods in between. I'll encourage you to leave your cameras on so that you maintain a connection with everyone during, in the in-between periods. And each sitting period will be accompanied with a little bit of instructions to support you during that period. There'll be time for Q&A, just like we do here, and little Dharmettes, and it'll feel like we're just in an in-person retreat. I did about 25 or more of these during the heart of COVID, and they were, to me, equally as valuable in my own practice as in-person retreats. So give it a chance, 4 hours, Saturday, and hope to see all of you there, and tell all your friends too. And thank you in advance for your generosity, and please feel free to unmute now and say good night. And thanks for your practice. Good night.
Thank you, Howard.
Good night.